Hi guys, it's Tayo here. Do you want to see how I made this beautiful bubu dress? In this video, I'm going to be showing you how I chopped it, cut it, and sew it. If you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please subscribe to it for more amazing tutorials like this one. Okay, so I've gone ahead to create my top and side margin line, and from the starting point I'll be marking my half back width. My half back width is 7.5. I'll go ahead and mark it from my starting point, and when I'm through with that, from that point I'll mark how long I want the sleeve area of the kimono jacket to be, and from that point I'll measure 8 inches. So I measured 8 inches from the point I took earlier, and if you want something longer you can go ahead and measure it, but that is where I want my sleeve area to be for the Ankara part of the kimono jacket. Now from the starting point again, I'm going to mark my neck width. For this I'll be making use of 4 inches as my neck width. So I'll mark my 4 inches there, and for my neck depth I'll just go down by half inch. I didn't want the back neck area to be too deep, that's why I use half inch, but I later increased it to 1 inch earlier in the video because I realized that it's not that very deep. So with my cuff, I'm going to connect the 2 points together. The cuff is not to be very cuffy, just a slight cuff. And when I'm through with that, from the starting point again, I'll be marking how wide I want the sleeve area to be. And for this I marked at 11 inches from the starting point, and I'll just go ahead and mark a straight line. Go ahead and do the same thing. This is not my bust, my round bust divided by 4. Actually, it is not. It is just how wide I want the sleeve area to be. If you have been making agbada kaftan, you should be able to understand what I'm saying. From the points I marked earlier at the starting point there, I'll just bring it down with a straight line. So once I'm through with that, I'm going to mark the length of the Ankara part, how long I want the Ankara part to be. So from the starting point there, I'll mark how long I want the Ankara to be. So for this illustration, I'm just going to be marking mine at 30 inches. So from the starting point, I'll be marking 30 inches, and with my ruler, I'm going to mark a straight line. I'm going to take this line down to the finished length, and to make sure that I have a straight line, I'll mark what I have from the side margin line to this point and measure it at the finished length of this pattern, and I'll mark it there. And with my ruler, I'm going to mark a straight line from the bottom and connect it to the existing line that I have here. So with my straight ruler, I'll connect all of this together. Go ahead and do the same. And once I'm through with that, the next thing that I want to do is nothing, because literally we are done making this pattern, and I'm going to be using this single pattern to cut the front and the back of my kimono jacket. And the beautiful thing about this is that once you just make this single pattern, you can use it to cut as many of kimono jacket that you want to make as possible. So each time that you can just draft this and keep it, and each time that you want to make something like this, you just bring out your pattern and place it on your fabric and cut. So that is the beautiful thing about making use of this pattern. So I'm just going to go ahead now and cut this out and use it to cut on my fabric. I'm going to be making use of these two fabric right here. The first one is Ankara and the other one is crepe. I have my African print fabric here, and I'm gonna to fold it into 4. So that is folded into 4 because we're going to be cutting the front and the back together. So I'm going to place my pattern that we make earlier. I'm going to be placing it on it, and I'm going to be arranging it. So I'll take it up to the top of my Ankara and arrange it very perfectly. And at the side there, you can see I'm leaving some allowances at the side and at the down part, and that is going to serve as my stitching allowance. And I'll go ahead to pin this down to stabilize it. So now I'll start cutting. At the neck area here, I'm going to be leaving about half-inch stitching allowance at the neck area. You can see we are not leaving any allowance at the shoulder, and that is because the front at the back will be cut together. So now I'm going to be leaving about half-inch stitching allowance at the down part, and at the side here as well I'll be leaving half-inch stitching allowance. I'll just go ahead and cut it through. And there we have it. So I'll go ahead now and remove my pattern from my fabric. So go ahead and do the same thing. And there, that is what I have for my fabric. So I'm just going to go ahead now and separate the front and the back together. Now I'm going to work on the front area of my kimono. From that point there, I'll mark a straight line all through to the end of my fabric. And once I'm sure with that, I'll go ahead and cut it out. And guys, I have my kimono jacket, the front and the back cut out together, and this is the neckline area for both front and the back neckline. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to measure around what I have here at the side and measure the other side, and use my crepe, this beautiful crepe fabric, and use it to cut it out. I've cut out my crepe material and I cut it on fold, and I've gone ahead to iron it out as well. So I'm just going to be attaching this to the first side of my kimono jacket. I'll be placing the open part of my crepe on the right side of my Ankara fabric, and I'll use my pin to pin this down. After pinning it down, this is what I have, and I'll head over now to the sewing machine and stitch this down all through. So after stitching it down, this is what I have. That is what the inside is looking like, and I'll just go ahead and give this to someone that will help me with it. If you have a weaving machine, please go ahead and weave it. And the other side as well has been stitched down, and that is how it's looking like. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to measure what I have at the front like that. I'll measure what I have, and I'll measure the back as well, and I'll use my measurements to cut on my crepe fabric. This is my crepe fabric, and I've gone ahead to cut it on fold, and I've ironed it out. So I'll be attaching these pieces to the front, to the first side front, the second side front, and to the back. After stitching it down, that is what I have, and I've stitched down the first side front, the second side of the front, and the back as well. I've gone ahead to cut out this long strip of fabric. It is in 2 inches wide and it is cut on fold. So I'm going to be placing the part of this strip that is open on the right side of my jacket, and I'll be using my pin to attach this all through to the other end of my jacket, and I'll pin this down, and I'll head over to the sewing machine and stitch this down as well. After stitching it down, this is what it looks like, and this is what the neckline also looks like, and I've also ironed this out. And the back as well, this is what it is looking like. It has been ironed and it is looking really neat and perfect. The next thing that I'm going to be working on is my pocket. So I have 2 pieces of this pocket, and I've also cut my crepe that I'll be attaching to the top of this pocket. So now the measurements for this pocket is dependent on what you want. For this I have 9 inches by 9 inches, and by the time I attach the crepe to the upper part, is going to give me 11 inches, and I'll also stitch this down. So this is totally dependent on how you want your pockets to be wide or how you want it to be long. So the strip is actually cut on fold, and I'll be attaching the part that is open to the right side of my pocket, and I'll go ahead and stitch it down, and I'll iron it after I'm done doing that. So this is my pocket. I've ironed it out, and I've also ironed out the sewing allowances on this pocket. So I iron out ½ inch at both sides and ½ inch at the bottom, so that it will be very easy for me to stitch down to my jacket. So please do the same thing for your own pocket as well. This is my jacket, and I'm going to be measuring where I want my pockets to be. So from the shoulder, I'm going to be measuring 16 inches. From my shoulder, I'll measure 16 inches and I'll mark it there. You can do longer or you can do shorter depending on where exactly you want your pocket to be. And I'll go to the other side as well, and I'll do the same thing, 16 inches from the shoulder. And this is my pocket. I'm going to be placing it on the line that I marked earlier, and I'm going to be using my pin to pin this down, and I'll head over to the sewing machine and stitch it down. And there I have my pocket stitched down, so that is what it looks like. So the next thing I'm going to do, we're almost done. The next thing I'm going to do now is to measure from my shoulder 11 inches, and this is going to be the wideness of my sleeve area. I want the sleeve part to be wide, so I'm marking 11 inches. I'll do this for the other side as well, and I'll stitch it down all through to the finished length of this dress, and I'll do the same thing for the other side as well. And now I'm done stitching this down, and this is what it is looking like. Please don't forget to weave all the insides of this dress. So this is what I have, and I'll just give this a quick press. Thank you for watching.